Good evening, and welcome to Creative Broadcasting, the station of unlimited possibilities, presents Creating Your Seat at the Table with your host, Ashley Little, as she welcomes her guest to the table.
Welcome to Creating Your Seat at the Table. I am your host, Ashley Little. A little bit about myself: corporate professional by day, entrepreneur by night, 3-time best-selling author, CEO and founder of Ashley Little Enterprises, LLC, owner and creator of Creative Broadcasting, and co-founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP. Tonight we have an amazing special VIP guest by the name of Coach Tajuana Ross. Coach Tajuana Ross, widely known as the LinkedIn Professor, is the CEO of Get Over Yourself Career and Life Coaching, Inc., #1 best-selling author, award-winning speaker, award-winning certified branding coach, Forbes Coaching Council member, and LinkedIn ghostwriter to the stars. She is the leading authority on teaching entrepreneurs how to build a brand that takes them from being the hunter to being the hunted on LinkedIn. Her book, Class, is now in session. Your 21 LinkedIn questions answered debuted at #1 in 2015 and has remained on the bestseller list. After leaving life as corporate rat racer in 2014, Coach Tajuana began her coaching business and now works with entrepreneurs that want to learn how to monetize their brand in the emerging gig economy. Her focus with them includes leveraging LinkedIn to establish brand credibility, publishing their first best-selling book to solidify brand authority, and building their paid speaking business to increase brand exposure. In the process, her clients receive a healthy dose of tough love, which empowers them to get over themselves and their limiting beliefs so that they can rock their brands with confidence. Featured on C-Suite Network, Bestseller TV, in the BIA Brand Magazine, on the cover of Entrepreneurs of Color magazine, and various podcasts. Coach Tajuana's influence has allowed her to speak on stages across the country. You will catch Coach Tajuana on a mission to change the world, one brand at a time, rocking her signature Mohawk blazer and chucks, currently based outside of Chicago. Welcome to the table, the amazing Coach Tajuana Ross.
Oh, my gosh, thank you so much. That was so wonderful to actually listen to. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You are welcome. I am honored and humbled to interview you tonight. I'm so excited to hear all the wisdom and knowledge and expert advice that you're going to give the audience. And you have such an amazing bio. So would you please tell us more about your entrepreneur journey?
You know, believe it or not, I didn't actually grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't actually part of my plan at all. I was well into that corporate life. In fact, I had the life that so many people talk about having, and I was quite comfortable there. And my entrepreneur journey started one day out of the blue, where I had an aha moment. I literally woke up one day and decided that I needed to quit my job. And just a strange thought out of nowhere. And as soon as I had that thought, though, I realized that I didn't actually know what that meant and what I would do as a result of quitting my job, but I knew that I didn't want to be there anymore. And lo and behold, it was also that aha moment that actually made me realize that I had no presence and absolutely no knowledge of what to do in terms of using LinkedIn to help me find another job. I just knew that I wanted to leave where I was, but I decided that I would actually learn LinkedIn, and in that process, I determined that not only was LinkedIn great for finding a new job, but really it got me the connections that I needed. It put me in contact with people who opened doors for me that showed me that I didn't actually need another job. Those connections and those relationships that I built were the kind of relationships that led me to the next aha moment of actually realizing that, hey, I don't need a job. I can actually run my own business. And granted, business is my favorite thing. I'm somewhat of a nerd. My friends will tell you that. I love to learn, but business is my favorite subject matter. And so in learning about starting a new business, it really was time to just get out there and do it. So I really didn't have much of a path, so to speak. So it just wasn't in the plan. It was literally something that I up and decided to do and just got out there and did it. So it's been a little over 5 years. I just celebrated my 5-year anniversary this year, 2019. And I still feel like I'm brand new at it because there's just so many moving parts to it. But it's been a wonderful journey that I'm so incredibly grateful for.
Amazing. I want to say happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And you said so much great things about your journey, and everything that you said stood out, but you talked about those good relationships and connections, right, and how those just nurturing those relationships continue to open more doors for you where you didn't have to go back to corporate America. And I think a lot of people miss that part when it comes to networking. It's just not about networking. It's about building valuable relationships. So could you elaborate on that a little bit more, Coach Tajuana?
It really is about that. So the relationships, I refer to something called relationship currency. And it's the value of the relationships that you have, right? So a lot of people will show up at networking events to be seen, right? I show up at networking events to serve because it's in that serving that other people see the value that I bring to the table because they see me bringing it to the table for somebody in a particular way. They want that too. And when you have those opportunities to connect with people and as you say, nurture those relationships, you'd be surprised what comes about as a result. So I'm just a fan of not just meeting people and collecting business cards, but actually serving. And to be able to do that effectively, that takes time. That takes an investment of time. It means that, you actually remember things like people's birthdays, the occasions that are important to them, and you show up for those things with value, right? So your relationships, though, and the relationships that you have in certain corners of society are the ones that really do lead you to opportunities. In fact, I'm attending a conference this week for speakers, and the reason I'm here is because of a relationship that I have with someone that's been nurtured. Whereas there are people here who have made a significant investment in time and energy and money to be here, and I'm here because of relationships. Right. And so if I look at especially this journey in business, most of my opportunities, if not the vast majority of them, are all coming from those relationships that I've built over time. So I always encourage people, take those extra moments to recognize somebody and something that's important to them so that you foster that relationship so that it leads both of you somewhere, not just you, but both of you, right? And together, then we can actually build empires.
Yes, because we can all win. And I love when you said show up, right? Those who show up, go up. I love that.
Absolutely. Show up with value, too. There's so much to be offered now. There's so much that people have at their disposal, but what we're all looking for is value.
So, Coach Tajuana, you are widely known as the LinkedIn professor. Would you please tell us more about that?
The LinkedIn professor is a name that I got from a client of mine, and I'm just so in love with this name because I am a nerd. I do love to learn, and a professor being at the highest, at the totem pole for learning, so to speak. And I'm a teacher. At my core, I'm a teacher. So I thought it was a perfect name. But as my client stated that day, that we were talking about something incredibly difficult to understand with LinkedIn at the time. And the way they put it was, I broke it down so that they were able to understand it in a way that they couldn't grasp prior to that point. And they just told me, I have the skill set to take something incredibly difficult and make it simple to understand. And that's a very unique quality to have, especially in my world where I do spend so much time teaching. So I actually love the name, the LinkedIn Professor. It served me well. It's a brand that I absolutely adore, and I'm so grateful that client saw fit to give me that name, and I've been using it ever since. So the LinkedIn Professor is, like you said, how I'm known, and I will travel places and go places now where people just recognize me as the LinkedIn Professor. Go figure.
Well, I love it, and you have the results for, to show yourself approved for the name, okay? So it's well-deserved. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, Coach Tajuana, you are the leading authority on reaching entrepreneurs on how to build a brand that takes them from being the hunter to being hunted on LinkedIn. Please tell us some ways that you do that.
Oh,
we would
gosh.
love to know.
I spend so much time watching people and their approach on this platform. LinkedIn is very unique. It's not your Facebook. It's not like Instagram. It's so incredibly different. But someone's strategy on this platform is what makes them stand out. And so I really do watch what makes somebody on LinkedIn, quote unquote, successful. And what I found is that the people who are using this platform the most effectively and who are the most successful at it are the people who aren't actually looking for opportunities anymore. They have brands that are so uniquely valuable that they no longer need to search. So LinkedIn automatically fosters that skill set that they have, and it positions them in a way that they can literally stop looking and the opportunities come to them. Now, one of the reasons that occurs, and I think this is probably not common knowledge because the more I mention this, the more people seem to be new to this concept, but LinkedIn is a search engine. And sometimes I think people forget that. It's a search engine. It's just like Google. So you type something in Google, you want to search something, and you get search results. It's the same thing on LinkedIn, but one of the reasons that people are able to go from being the hunter to the hunted is because LinkedIn is a search engine. And so when someone builds a brand, or value, of course, but when they build a brand that has effectiveness to it, automatically, because LinkedIn is a search engine and because it's best friends with Google, automatically that person's brand is visible. That person's brand can be found on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is actually positioning them in an effective way that other people can't say. So I look at it in a couple different ways, but I think it's just one of those places where if people were more strategic, they really can go from looking for the opportunities to having a brand that's recognizable and cataloged on a platform like LinkedIn so that they're constantly being positioned and found on a regular basis, which is one of the reasons why I love it. In fact, it's really how I went from being completely anonymous and having no online footprint whatsoever to here, being on this show.
I love it. And what are some of the strategies, Coach Tajuana, that you took you said you went from anonymous to the great person that you always have been. So what are some strategies that you took on LinkedIn to make yourself more visible? Did you, reach out, yourself to these connections, or it kind of just started chasing you once you made your brand recognizable?
Well, both, actually. So when I first got on the platform and I had no presence and I really was building, in the process of building, more of that was around learning the platform and actually using it. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make on LinkedIn is they get on, they create a profile, and they don't really use the tool. And the real magic of LinkedIn is in the engagement. And so I tell people all the time, having a profile on LinkedIn isn't going to help you. Everybody has a profile on LinkedIn. Well, maybe not everyone, but 500 million people have a profile on LinkedIn. Therefore, having a profile on LinkedIn is not special. But what is special is when you show up on the platform and you're actually using it. You're actually engaging there. You're actually networking and connecting with people. And the more connecting you do, the more relationship building that you do, the more this online catalog has to recognize your presence, right? So as a result, on the back end, the algorithm is working in your favor, because the more you show up on LinkedIn, the bigger your footprint is, right? And the bigger your footprint is on LinkedIn, the more effective your brand becomes over time. And so for me, one of the biggest ways to really maximize this tool and really make the best of it is to actually show up and engage. So it's not just the online tool itself and the engagement, but, again, fostering those relationships.
So for our listeners that are listening, you have to engage in LinkedIn. We all have profiles. It's all about engaging and building those valuable connections, which took Coach Tajuana from anonymous to the LinkedIn professor that's widely recognized. So Coach Tajuana, LinkedIn is 277% more effective for lead generation than Facebook and Twitter. Would you please elaborate on that a little bit more? Because I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, this is probably something that a lot of people aren't aware of, or they're aware of it but haven't adjusted their strategy yet. You see so many people that are actively selling on platforms like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Meanwhile, the real sales conversion rather is happening on LinkedIn. And so I think when we look at the core of why this is, it's clear that it's because when we log into Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, we're not there to buy anything. We're not there to do business. We're there to see videos of babies and cats and dogs and things like that. We're there for a social aspect. But not necessarily to buy things, and certainly not necessarily to network. Whereas when someone logs into LinkedIn, they are literally logging in for the purpose of doing business of some sort. So by default, the conversion rates on LinkedIn are significantly higher than other platforms because of our intent for why we're there in the first place. I really wish people would truly understand that, because I'm sure you see, just like I see all day on social media, how we'll get notifications and messages and we'll see posts that are trying to sell us something. And we're not interested in whatever those products or services are, because we're on Facebook and Twitter for something other than buying these products and services. We don't want to be sold to. Whereas on LinkedIn, we do have a completely different mindset. We receive that information differently. Therefore, it turns around differently, right? So if our intent is to do business, then we're more likely to actually grow our business, make those sales on a platform like LinkedIn. Now, that said, though, I still have to impress, though, that it is a networking platform. It's not a sales platform. And so even though it is excellent for lead generation and it is great for conversions, and you do see much higher results on LinkedIn than the others, it still doesn't mean show up and sell all your wares all day, because that's just not what any of us are interested in.
So for our listeners that wanted to know why the lead generation is higher, this is why, because it is a networking platform, right? And when we're on LinkedIn, the intent is to do business, which is the difference than Facebook and Twitter. Thank you, Coach Tajuana, for elaborating more on that and why that, those percentages are much higher. So would you please share with us a little bit? We want to go a little bit more in depth now with some of the resources on LinkedIn and some things that people might not know that are very beneficial to help them become better networkers and better at building those relationships on LinkedIn, which is the LinkedIn built-in CRM. So can we talk more about that and why that's a very useful resource to use?
It really is. LinkedIn has some wonderful features and functionality built in that allow us to really maintain the relationships that we do build. And so, just as an example, something very simple, when we log into LinkedIn every day and we look at our notifications, we see things like it was Jane's birthday today, right? So if it's Jane's birthday and LinkedIn is telling you that it's Jane's birthday, you're already connected to Jane, which is why you're getting the notification in the first place. So take 60 seconds out of your day and send Jane a note to say happy birthday, because it's her birthday and LinkedIn just told you it's her birthday, right? That's CRM functionality that is such a basic feature, but again, it allows us to foster those relationships so that if I take time out of my day to say happy birthday to Jane, Jane's going to remember that. That's going to make an impression on her, right? And the next time she needs something that I do or I have or I can connect her to, I will be top of mind, right? Because I'm fostering that relationship. And I did that because LinkedIn CRM functionality sets me up with information like that, right? And so, again, just simple functionality, simple features that are built into the tool that help us grow those relationships and make those connections that get us to the opportunities we're looking for. But LinkedIn has all kinds of those CRM features, and every time I look up, they're adding more. So we'll see how much more we grow from a platform standpoint. But I mean, really, they think of almost everything that allows us to build relationships of value.
I love it. And we know in order for us to foster those great relationships, we have to have different connection strategies. So if you would share some of your connection strategies, I know the CRM is one way. What are some other, strategies that you would like to share with the audience today about, how to, have that valuable connection strategy?
There's one that I'll share that I find is not very well known. So I want to share this simply to get the message out so that people really can think strategically about their LinkedIn life. But when it comes to connecting on LinkedIn, I always advise to my clients that they do not send connection requests. Okay. Now, that may sound counterproductive because people say, well, we're on LinkedIn. We want to connect with people. We should connect all day. And people really do send off connection requests all day. The problem is, right now, people send connection requests with no strategy whatsoever. So they'll open someone's profile and immediately click the connect button. And when you click the connect button, a connection request goes off to Jane, and it's the default connection request. And when I say default connection request, I mean it's the default language. So the default language is that canned message that we've all received a gazillion times that just says, I want to add you to my LinkedIn network. Now, there's nothing special about that messaging. It's default. It's canned. It's verbiage that tells us that we weren't worth the 60 seconds of your time to customize that message. And not only is that counterproductive, but most people don't understand, don't know that you have a finite amount of connection requests on LinkedIn. You have a maximum of 3,000 connection requests that you can send in your whole LinkedIn lifetime. So when you've sent all 3,000 of them, they're gone. There aren't any more. You've used them all. And so if you're early in your career, or even mid-career for that matter, and you've used all 3,000 of your connection requests, and all of a sudden you decide you want to change lanes and do something different, or widen your scope or scale up for that matter, you have no more connection requests, right? And that's a very desperate place to be in, because you want to still be growing, but you can't grow at that point because you can't send connection requests. So I always advise my clients that rather than sending the connection request in the first place, that you get the other person to send it to you, okay? And of course, there are those people out there that are super special, that we admire, that we want in our network. We look up to these folks, and those are the people to reserve your connection requests for. The people that you truly want in your network, that the people that you admire, right? Other than that, everyone else, let them send you the request so that you don't run out, but also so that subconsciously we get the message that you're the one with the power. You're the one that's sought after. You're the one with the brand. You're the one that's offering value. Right? And because of that, if you're sending us the connection request, that falls in line with that, right? So really, be strategic in your approach is what I often tell people, because something's got to make you stand out on LinkedIn from everyone else. And when it comes to connecting, you cannot stand out if you're sending the default connection request. So just stop. Right? Just stop sending them. Stop sending them all together. Hold on to your connection request so you keep your little bank that you've got left. But when you do decide you're going to send a connection request to someone, customize it. Take the default language out, customize it with new language that's specific to that person. And you find that you go a long way, a lot further with that kind of a strategic approach on LinkedIn.
So many amazing nuggets that you just shared with us. You know, listeners, that you have a max of 3,000 connection requests over a lifetime on LinkedIn. So be very strategic, as Coach Tajuana just said, and you want people to seek after you, right? And when you do send the request to people you admire, right? That's the key word, customize it.
That's exactly it.
So why should we back up our list of connections? So that's important too. Or do we back them up?
No, I love this question. I love this question because it is so crucial to back up your connections on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn can go out of business tomorrow. Right? LinkedIn can shut down tomorrow. And if they were to shut down tomorrow, they take everything with them. And if you don't have your connections housed somewhere outside of LinkedIn, if they were to shut down, you've lost everything. And because this is relationship currency that we're talking about, if you've built up currency on LinkedIn and they happen to disappear overnight, your currency is gone. And for most people, that's a sad, sad place to be in. So I highly recommend backing up pretty much everything, contact information especially.
I love that because that's so important, as you stated, because it could go out of business tomorrow, and we got to make sure that we keep our connections and continue to build that, because our relationship, as you stated, is currency, and that's so important. I think people look at money, but your relationships are more valuable than money.
Absolutely. Your relationships are maybe what leads you to the money, but the relationship itself is so incredibly valuable, and in most cases more valuable than the money.
And Coach Tajuana, you have a awesome coaching business, and you, as I stated earlier, you help entrepreneurs monetize their brand, from establishing their brand credibility to publishing their first best-selling book, their brand authority, and building their paid speaking business. So would you tell us more about your coaching business and how we can, listeners can purchase and, get and support you and get involved if they need your services?
Oh, absolutely. So nowadays with the gig economy, there's so many people like myself who just wake up one day and decide that we don't necessarily want the traditional corporate life anymore. And in this gig economy, people are able to monetize their gifts and talents in a totally different way than, let's say, our parents could, right? So our parents didn't necessarily have the avenues that we've got available today where we can make a living off of our skill sets. And as a result of this gig economy where it is much easier nowadays to make a living off of your skill set, it also means that you've got to be, you've got to have a presence, right? People have to be able to Google you or what it is that you do and actually find value there as a result. And so one of the things that I teach people is how to build that brand that communicates that value so that people have you top of mind. Because when that's the case, then you find that having a business and actually monetizing your gifts and talents aren't as difficult as we've maybe thought they were. Is it challenging? Yeah, sure. Being in business is challenging. It's definitely not a piece of cake. But having a brand behind that business really does open doors for so many people, because it's within that brand that we find that value, right? It's within that brand that we can actually connect with you. And I'll tell you, with so many folks that I work with, they may not have any idea of what that brand looks like. And they don't necessarily know where to start in building it. And because this is just something that I find fascinating, I decided I wanted to build my own business around that so that I can actually teach people how to build and monetize at the same time. But there is a particular formula that I use, and as you've pointed out, LinkedIn is a part of it, and having a best-selling book is another part of it, and making sure that my clients have speaking businesses is another part of it. Because with the LinkedIn presence, a best-selling book, and a speaking business, someone can truly, truly monetize what it is they're good at. They can offer their products and services to the end user, but then they can also teach that to people. They can also deliver workshops where people learn their process, right? And so you're monetizing that gift and talent. In this gig economy, I find that having some sort of strategy like that, some sort of approach like that, is one of the ways that certain brands are more sustainable than others.
I love that, and I agree, Coach Tajuana, because you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself to be seen and you're positioning yourself to be heard, right, and to be able to, like you stated, monetize as well, and that's the key.
Right.
And as you stated, you have the #1 best-selling book, which was released in 2015 and still remains on the bestseller list. Class is now in session. Your 21 LinkedIn questions answered. Tell us more about this book and how we can purchase and support it.
Oh gosh, this book was one of those things that was never on my radar. It just wasn't something that I ever dreamed of. And thank goodness for the coaches that I have in my life that have worked with me, because my book coach was able to show me a process to get what was in my head out into the book. And once we did that, it not only showed me the process, but also showed me how important it is for people to learn this process themselves. But people can go online to buy the book if they want from Barnes & Noble, Walmart online, Amazon, also my website. But the book itself is simply the most popular questions that I get about LinkedIn all in one place. So when my book coach and I sat down and we were brainstorming what my first book would be about, we had several topics to choose from, several aspects of LinkedIn to choose from, but I really wanted the first one to be all about questions. I wanted it to be answers to questions that I felt I couldn't always be present to answer. So if I put everything in one place, if someone would have this book to go to as kind of their answer key, if you will. And so I love this book because literally people have told me they use this book as their LinkedIn Bible. So when they're jumping on or coming back to the platform or trying new features there and they're not quite sure how to approach the platform, they go to my book because chances are the question that they have is already in there. The answer is already in there. And that gets them going, so they don't actually have to be stuck. They can actually jump on LinkedIn and participate, engage, but strategically. So I actually love this book myself.
So please go get her book. Please go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and in her website and get Coach Tajuana's book. She is the LinkedIn professor and the expert. So pretty much the questions that you might have tonight, if you get her book, I'm pretty sure the questions are going to get answered. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Coach Tajuana. So I asked all of my guests this question. How did you create your seat at the table? Because, pretty much, Coach Tajuana, you already own the table. So could you talk to us more about that? How did you do that?
This is the result of the relationships. So my own personal approach here to create a seat at the table for myself was to connect with the people who are already at the table, right? So connect with the people in my world who already have the power to have their own table, right? What you'll notice about successful people is that successful people leave clues, right? So if you can simply get in the room, you're going to learn everything you need to learn from proximity. And so LinkedIn and engaging on LinkedIn is what gave me proximity and allowed me to build relationships with certain people. But it was those relationships that I leaned on in order to get in the room, in order to get a seat at the table. What I found, though, in this journey is that once you're in the room, that's great and all, but we've got to actually remember and own the fact that we have the right to be there. And the right to be there is so important because we as a people, sometimes we're not necessarily the most self-confident, right? Sometimes we have a loss of confidence for whatever the reason. But to have a seat at the table means that you're confident enough to be there, right? Getting in the room is one thing, but you've got to have the confidence to actually sit there. And so for me, it's been a combination of using the relationship currency that I have to get in the room, but once I'm there, realizing that I belong there.
And that's the key, realizing that we belong there. That is key once you get in the room and connecting with the people who are already at the table.
Right.
That's so key, so important. So what can we expect from you, Coach Tajuana, the rest of 2019? Because I consistently follow you. As I say, you are always reaching back and pulling forward. You're doing some amazing things. You're right now at the table with some amazing people such as Les Brown right now. So would you please tell us what else we can expect from the amazing Coach Tajuana the rest of 2019?
That's actually a large part of my focus for the rest of this year. My whole reason for being at this conference in the first place to learn from people like Les Brown is because I want to be a better speaker. And I want to be a better speaker internationally. And so there are people at this table already. There are people within my network who already have complete structures and organizations and companies all over the world who are already in this space. And I've built some excellent relationships and some partnerships that are going to take me where I need to go for the rest of this year as a speaker. But that is my main focus, is to increase the amount of stages that I'm on for the rest of this year, as well as help as many people as possible do the same thing. So what I've noticed as an entrepreneur is that speaking is an excellent way to not only monetize what you do, but it's an excellent way to see the world. Right. Now, I've already seen the world. I've lived all over the world. I've traveled almost everywhere. However, I was much younger in doing that, and each time I traveled growing up, it was because of my family. So my dad was an executive. My dad was actually the COO at PepsiCo and the vice president of Quaker Oats. And so we traveled most of my life. In fact, the vast majority of my life, we traveled. But we were traveling because of my dad's role, right? And so now I want to travel because of my business. And in order to be able to do that to the degree that I want to, it meant that I needed to actually build this model out and build some new partnerships. And so I've invested a whole lot of time in the front half of this year, as well as late last year, into these new partnerships. And the rest of this year will be more speaking. So I'm excited about that because it really is a great way to not only make a bigger impact, but it's a great way to see the world.
Yes, and to everybody that's listening and looking to get into the speaking business, those are some key nuggets to take. Monetize it and see the world, and make sure you have value. That is so key. Value. Make sure you're bringing value. So, Coach Tajuana, will you please let our listeners know how they can follow and contact you and purchase your services and your books?
Absolutely. I always encourage people to schedule virtual coffee with me. Virtual coffee is a free conversation that we get to have, and we get to explore anything that you would like to talk about. You can do that by going to my website, thelinkedinprofessor.com, and in scheduling time to speak with me at no cost to you, it allows us to really just take a step back and look at the big picture and see if we can't find the best path to get you where you want to go within that call. As a result of that call, if we decide that we want to do some things together, that's awesome. I am open to working with almost everyone, in that I know that the people I want to work with have a desire to scale up, right? So the people that I typically work with are people who want to build brands that they can monetize, because they literally want to scale up. So in having virtual coffee with me, we get to explore what that actually looks like. And if we can do that, if we can identify what that looks like, we can build it, right? And if someone is willing to commit the time to building that, I'm the perfect coach to assist in that because it's what I love doing, right? I can look at someone's goals and desires and find the path to monetize their gifts and talents in my sleep. And it's something that I just enjoy doing. I love doing that. So I really do encourage people to schedule that virtual coffee so that we get to actually explore and see what that might look like. Because for everybody, it's different. And even though I have a formula that I use and a process to get us there, still everyone is different. Everyone has unique needs and talents. So I'm flexible in that, but we would only find that out if we had the opportunity to actually explore that in virtual coffee. So I really do encourage people to schedule that so that we can have that chat.
I love it. So to all of our listeners, please reach out to Coach Tajuana and get assistance if you need help with creating your brand and building your brand and monetizing it and being at LinkedIn and being better on LinkedIn, because we all can use that, to learn these different ways to continue to monetize and build those valuable relationships. And I just want to say, amazing interview, Coach Tajuana. You have shared a lot of nuggets and a lot of expert advice tonight. And I'm just honored and humbled to be able to have you at the table. And I can't wait to invite you back before the end of 2019.
Oh, I'd be terribly honored. I got to say, I'm just so proud of you. For what you do, and this is not easy, and you do it with such grace, and I appreciate you, and I'm just grateful that I had this opportunity, and I can't wait to come back.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and humbled that for you to say those words. It means a lot, Coach Tajuana. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing all the great things that you're going to continue to do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I would like to give a special thanks to Tammy Collins-Marquis and John Schamberger. I would also like to give a special thanks to author Kimberly McLemore. I would like to give a special thanks to my interns, Tracy, Tyler, and Sarah from Tennessee State University. You all may reach me on Facebook at Ashley Little and on Instagram at _Ashley A. Little. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table, where Ashley speaks with corporate professionals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers who are transitioning or have transitioned to entrepreneurship.